Welcome back to another episode of Inside Multifamily Access Control. As always, Colin's with me. Colin, how you doing?
Doing well. Good to be back after a week off there. So excited to connect again.
Yeah, very nice. So yeah, we found a way to fill in the massive gap that you left me on by myself, but we were able to do it. So yeah, and again, thank you to you and Salto for helping put this together. So excited to have you back. So while we were gone last week, some more news came out from an investment. So we'll talk about the implications of what that means and have an idea around what it means to the impacts or trends that are happening. But ButterflyMX last week reported $35 million raise for an intercom system, frankly, that I believe, and then if you read the newsletter, from last week, I believe it is the Trojan horse into a much larger conversation of what's going on, other than people just thinking it's cool tech. You've got a lot of trends and a lot of things that are happening. So I thought we'd jump into that. So let's do that. So coming off that raise, I think there's a ton of correlations of this intercom business and multifamily to the visitor management systems that we see in the enterprise side. It's sort of these rich user interfaces that are gone beyond what has historically been in our industry, black readers and cards on the wall. That was our interface to people outside of the admins and the installers that we have in the industry. So it's a proof point, if you would, of also an industry that, frankly, the old SIP systems, and if you look at the old systems that are around, the push button ones, I wouldn't call them the innovators of the world. Butterfly's done a nice job of actually bringing some level of technical aptitude and really look and feel and user experience to it. So what are your thoughts on what I just said there? But then overall, what does it mean, do you think, in the multifamily space?
I mean, first, I think it's a testament in the multifamily space to the new reality that is visitors, right? You no longer just have contractors and guests or friends of the residents. You now have package deliveries at an unbelievable rate. You have food deliveries at an unbelievable rate. You have technicians and installation companies for your residents, right? The contractors are no longer just for the multifamily developer or property manager. So I think first, it's a testament to just this new reality of visitor or whatever you want to term that in a multifamily space. Second to that, it continues in my mind, it continues this evolution of the resident experience beyond the resident to their guest experience, right? You were talking about kind of the single line, punch the number, punch the code. That's no longer the experience that a resident expects their guests to go through. And there needed to be a technological advancement to drive that to the front door. I mean, that technology is available everywhere else that you operate. I mean, you can't go to the airport anymore and not order off an iPad or anything like that. And so, frankly, I think it's kind of surprising that it's taken so long to get there. But when the SIP and the push button stuff all came around, 20 years ago, that was such a big deal. It's everywhere. And so there, from a retrofit kind of standpoint, it's like, well, we already got the cable there to do it. We already, now we don't have to deal with cell phones and all that. It was easy. And so it was easy to say no up until 8 months ago. And so now I think the phase change of just that overarching resident experience demand, what they expect their guests to go through, how they expect to interact with their guests, that all is driving what ButterflyMX is experiencing, I think, with this huge funding flow.
Yeah, the other part that I think is interesting to it too is that a lot of the other systems that are on the marketplace, this does a good job of not having to worry if somebody has a phone or not, right? So like the fact that this thing is fixed on the wall, it has a user interface that people engage with it and work with it. Regardless if phone or not, you have it. Kind of like you saw with the kiosk at the airport, anybody can walk up to that. It's like the only time I've seen people not want to do it are typically either people have never seen a computer or are older and intimidated by it, so they go up to the front desk, right? But with this, I feel like they move it away from having to be a phone experience. It's an in-wall experience that you don't have to worry. So I do believe, and I wonder, will these types of technologies drive the specifications of systems that historically in our industry, like no intercom system ever before drove the specification of the locks and that you had. So does it change now to where you do, like, do you have to pay attention, or do they now start to become the new access control systems of our industry?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think it's I think we've also got to come up with a better name for it, right? Intercom, I don't think necessarily does it justice in what the functionality and the capability is, because it's no longer an intercom; it's an interaction, and I think that interaction is a big piece that is going to drive some specification, right? I mean, I think in new builds and things like that, it's a no-brainer. You're going to see some level of video interaction to grant these access points, right? And whether it becomes the access control, I don't think it becomes the access control solution, but I think you'd have a major miss if they were not connected in some aspect, right? If you go back to a couple of our conversations ago of that ecosystem, right? They're absolutely ecosystem partners in that. You've got to have commonality between databases. You're going to be sharing identities in some factor. So I certainly think that it's no longer an intercom that you can just say, hey, that's a separate entity of the access control. You're only going to use that when somebody that you don't know comes up. No, you're going to interact with everybody that comes to that front door, and there has to be a tie-in into the ecosystem. And I certainly think that video interaction piece is going to be a part of the access control plan for newly developed buildings. And I think you'll even start to see it push into the retrofit and replace some of the aging analog system, phone-based systems that you see today.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. A good way to put it. This is sort of a representation of sort of a video convergence with the access control side too. It's got a bit of that. I wonder if the intercom systems become a feature of access control systems, sort of like, just like you can have different reader types and the rest, maybe now this is just another type of interface, and that's where those two worlds come together. And then who leads depends on who brings it. So I think there's a lot there. I also, I'm interested to see, does this allow an easier way to remotely access systems now? So you can even look at the way that companies can manage buildings to where you can have, remote concierge that you don't have to have a person sitting at the front desk. You can have video interface. Like I've always wondered, like, why can't I walk up to a building and FaceTime with it, right? Like, or why couldn't I FaceTime with it now? Like, if I knew how to get to that building to give a heads up that I'm going to go do that, or the delivery people, whatever it might be. Like I know some of those features now exist with companies like ButterflyMX and some other people, but I can imagine this is going to accelerate. What I don't think it is, though, is I don't think, and I think kind of like what you're saying in ways, that I don't think we're just making a better mousetrap of like, it's a better intercom. I think it's a much bigger play in this, and it will start to also, I think, bleed into, like, why wouldn't you see this type of stuff more on the enterprise? Why wouldn't you see this at hospitals? Or like, I always wonder, like, banks, this is like every one of the tellers could be this, more or less, right? Like there's a whole lot of ways that you look at digital. It's almost like digital signage and video, and I don't know, maybe there's like 8 different ways that this has all come together.
Well, I think, speaking in the multifamily space specifically, I think probably leaning more heavily towards the resident experience and their interaction with their guests and kind of their demands on the property management company. But on the property management side of things, you're already seeing this influx of self-guided tours and things of that nature, where you're driving separation from potential buyer and seller, from a marketing standpoint. That alone, again, changing the term from intercom to interaction, you're adding a human element to that interaction without having to add additional cost or any of that sort of thing. And you're providing that flexibility for the different types of renters and things that you see in today's world. Of there's some who may want to have a 20-minute conversation with you via this video interaction before they enter the building. And there's some who want nothing to do with having an interaction, and they chose the self-guided tour because they didn't want to see your face, Lee, you know, and this will provide that flexibility to do that. To me, it fits very nicely in this world of self-guided tour and everybody trying to find ways to provide value through the leasing process without putting additional bodies in places, subjecting people to, external threats of illness or what have you. To me, it's a pretty timely conversation.
Yeah, and I wonder too, then what does it mean to, like, inside the units? There may be screens now that show up there. Maybe it's on the televisions. A camera. Like, I noticed like Ring has that little peephole camera that you can add to your house now. I wonder, like, does that come interact some? So the whole lot that I think maybe this is we've reached another sort of increase in video convergence with access control and locks that I think is going to continue, that goes beyond just the surveillance side, where before that's really in multifamily, video was for surveillance, lock was for security and safety. Now we're talking about user experience and the rest. So I think it's all good.
But I think you bring up an interesting point there, right? Of video at every stage. As video becomes more involved, the next conversation immediately has to go to connectivity, right? And now you've got multiple video all over the place, and
privacy.
Yeah, and privacy. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
So lots still to come with this. But so congratulations to Cyrus and team over at ButterflyMX. I know that's a lot of work to get to the point to raise that. It's, in some cases, the fun has just started now, because now you have to go deliver on it. But if you take a moment to say congratulations to them, they've been a good partner of a lot of people. So, and they're an important part of the ecosystem. So, all right, Colin, I think we figured out the world's problems around intercom systems and the convergence of video. So
you can take that credit. I'm not sure I'll make that statement.
Yeah, that's all right. You said no one wants to see my face anyway, so that's that's all good. I don't blame them. I don't blame you or them. So, well, cool. Well, appreciate it as always. Look forward to again till next week, and have a good rest of the week.
Thanks. You too. Take care, everybody.